Hi everyone, my name is Annayia. And for 15 years I was the girl they left out. Family reunions, holiday dinners, cousins' weddings. I was never invited. They'd whisper, "She's too intense, too ambitious. Not our kind of energy." But last week, they showed up unannounced at my luxury beachfront home, and I opened the door with the calmest smile they'd ever seen. "Oh, you actually live here? Must be a rental." That was my cousin Rita. Same smug smirk. Same pointed tone. Behind her, Aunt Marla adjusted her sunglasses and muttered. She always did play the big shot. Let's see how long this lasts. They stood at the foot of my marble porch, like strangers admiring a painting they once spat on. I stayed quiet. But inside something stirred. Not revenge. Not anger. Just certainty. They thought I was still that girl, the one they could laugh at. They had no idea who they were about to walk into. When I bought this place I made no announcement. No family group message. No Instagram brag. Just the sound of waves, my name on the deed, and peace. And now they were parked outside. 3 SUVs. Loud voices. Clicking heels and gossip. Rita's husband filming the view like it belonged to him. Then came the text. "Hope you're home. We're outside." No apology. No reason. Just years of silence, now knocking on my glass door. So I opened it. Silk robe. No makeup. Confidence they couldn't buy if they auctioned their pride. I stood there backlit by the sea and breeze, the very elements they said I'd drown in. "Would you like to come in?" I asked. Aunt Marla blinked. Rita's smile cracked. Uncle Don looked down at his shoes. They had no idea what I'd built, but they were about to walk through it. One carefully placed step at a time. Rita stepped in first, heels clacking against imported wood. Aunt Marla followed slowly, eyes darting like she was expecting to see folding chairs and borrowed furniture. And Uncle Don trailed behind, whispering something about the ocean breeze messing with his joints. They said nothing at first. Just wide eyes. Tight smiles. The kind people wear when they realize the person they dismissed built an empire in silence. "This is nice," Aunt Marla finally croaked, touching the edge of my glass dining table like it might vanish. "Minimalist. Must have had help." I smiled. "Not the kind that invites warmth. The kind that makes you wonder if you've already lost." "I designed it myself," I said, pouring sparkling water into crystal glasses. "Some people use silence to sulk. I used it to sketch." Rita looked at the wall-length ocean view, then at me. "Is this all from your writing thing?" "My writing thing." That's what they always called it. Back when I worked nights, pitched ideas to deaf ears and waited tables to pay for workshops. I leaned against the counter, calm and steady. "My writing paid for this house. And the 3 after it." I didn't add that one of those homes was currently rented to a Hollywood director. I didn't need to. The silence that followed spoke more than I ever could. They wandered from room to room, running fingers across leather-bound books they never read, stepping cautiously into a kitchen that gleamed like it had secrets, glancing at framed letters from publishers and photos with names they'd only seen in magazines. And still not one of them said, "We're proud of you," because pride for them was a currency I never earned. Till now. I watched them shrink into themselves, the same way they made me feel for years. I wasn't angry. I wasn't cruel. I was precise. "So," Rita chirped, trying to slice through the tension, "what made you finally invite us?" I looked her dead in the eye. "I didn't." And just like that, the air in the room shifted. Because they realized. This wasn't a reunion. It was a reckoning. Rita blinked. "Wait, you didn't invite us?" I tilted my head, feigning confusion. "I didn't send any invitations. You just showed up." The weight of that sentence pressed into the glass walls like fog. Aunt Marla stiffened. Uncle Don cleared his throat. And Rita, oh Rita, gave that tight little laugh that always meant she was unraveling. "Well, we just thought maybe it was time." She trailed off, eyes scanning for backup that wasn't coming. Time. They said that word like it was currency. As if 15 years of erasure could be traded for an afternoon in my living room. But I said nothing. I just gestured toward the long dining table, polished walnut, hand-carved edges, flanked by chairs they never earned. They hesitated. Like sitting down might admit something, might make it real. And I let them. Because power doesn't come from shouting. comes from stillness. When the room bends to your silence. I placed the charcuterie board on the center of the table. Imported cheeses. Local fruits. Crackers aligned like chess pieces. Rita reached for a grape. I slid the tray an inch away. Wait. My voice didn't rise. Didn't need to. They froze. I figured since you're all here, we could play a little game. Aunt Marla's lip twitched. Uncle Don looked confused. Rita smiled. But it didn't reach her eyes. Let's go around the table, I said softly, and each of you can tell me the last memory you have of inviting me to something. Silence. The kind that wraps around your chest and squeezes. Aunt Marla adjusted her bracelet. Uncle Don coughed. Rita tried to smile again. Failed. Take your time, I said. I had 15 years. I'm not in a rush. No one moved. No one spoke. They had shown up expecting wine and second chances. Instead they found a table shaped like accountability. And a woman they didn't recognize anymore. Because sometimes, the house you enter isn't just a home. It's the courtroom. And you're already on trial. Rita swallowed hard. You know, we were all going through a lot back then, she said, voice thin as paper. Family stuff. It's complicated. I nodded slowly. Yes. But blocking someone out for 15 years? That's not complicated. That's deliberate. She looked down at her lap, her painted nails suddenly more interesting than the view. Uncle Don chimed in next, voice low. You were always distant. Hard to approach. Your mother left, and after that. He stopped himself. There was the one excuse they all loved to recycle. That I changed after my mother died. That I made them uncomfortable with my grief. That my pain made them pull away. I leaned forward. Calm. Controlled. Let me remind you. When she passed I was 19. I still showed up to Grandma's birthday. Still brought gifts to your kids. Still sat quietly while you all joked about how emotional I'd become. Aunt Marla cleared her throat. You're right, I said. I was emotional. Because I buried my mother and came back to find my family had buried me too. The room went still. Outside, waves lapped gently against the shore. A soft, steady rhythm that somehow made their silence louder. I stood up. Walked slowly toward the bookshelf where a dusty white photo album sat untouched. I opened it and placed it on the table. Pages filled with old memories. Cookouts. Birthdays. Sunday brunches. I was missing from almost every page. I flipped to the last one. It was dated 5 years ago. They were all there. All smiles. Matching shirts. A family reunion banner in the background. I tapped the photo gently. I lived just 30 minutes away when this was taken. No one dared look me in the eye. You thought I wouldn't notice. That I'd just fade away quietly. I closed the album. But I didn't fade. I built. I healed. I thrived. And now you're sitting in the home your silence helped design. Brick by brick, heartbreak by heartbreak. Rita's voice cracked. We didn't know how to fix it. I smiled softly. You didn't try. And that was always the part that burned the deepest. Rita's eyes welled up, but not from remorse. From discomfort. She wasn't used to sitting in stillness this heavy. She was used to being adored, not dissected. Aunt Marla crossed her arms. So what now? You wanted to shame us? That's why you let us in. I turned toward her, slowly. No. I let you in so you could see exactly what I became without you. I paused. Shame doesn't need help. It grows in silence. And that's something you're all familiar with, aren't you? The ocean roared outside, louder now. Or maybe it was just my heart, beating steady, certain. Uncle Don finally spoke. Look, this all feels theatrical. We didn't come here to fight. That's convenient, I replied. Because I'm not here to fight either. I'm here to close. I walked into the hallway and returned with a velvet box. Set it in the center of the table. Rita's eyebrows lifted. Is this? Open it, I said. She hesitated, then lifted the lid. Inside were envelopes. Each sealed. Each labeled with the name. Rita. Marla. Don. What is this? Aunt Marla snapped. I sat back down, crossing my legs. It's everything you left behind. They didn't understand. So I explained. I kept every card you didn't send. Every invite I never received. Every birthday, every holiday, every family moment I watched from a screen. I wrote it down. Not to punish. To remember. They stared at the envelopes like they might catch fire. Rita opened hers. Inside, a single sheet of paper. On it, one sentence. The day you said I wasn't worth the gas money. Her hand trembled. I wrote that down, I said softly, because it was the moment I stopped calling. Aunt Marla opened hers. Uncle Don did too. No yelling. No outrage. Just the truth. Written plainly. Without exaggeration. Because the truth, when left untouched, cuts cleanest. You gave me memories, I said. I just returned them, beautifully packaged. They didn't speak. Because there was nothing left to say. Sometimes closure isn't loud. It's quiet. It's wrapped in velvet, and delivered face to face. Rita didn't look up. She just kept reading that single sentence, over and over. Not worth the gas money. Her lips moved silently, like she could rewrite it with enough repetition. Aunt Marla folded her paper sharply, tucking it back into the envelope as if hiding the words might erase the memory. Uncle Don leaned back in his chair, eyes vacant, mouth shut. For once, the ocean outside had grown quiet, as if even the waves were waiting to see what would happen next. I didn't bring you here to beg, I said, my voice soft. I brought you here, to return what you left in me. Marla's jaw tightened. You think this makes you better than us? No, I said, shaking my head. I don't think I'm better. I think I'm free. They couldn't understand that. As people like them, they don't see silence as survival. They see it as surrender. But I wasn't quiet because I lost. I was quiet because I grew roots while they drifted in circles. I stood slowly, walking to the window. From this angle, the coastline stretched endlessly, blue, pure, untouched. You see this house? I whispered, more to the view than to them. I didn't build it to impress you. I built it because I finally stopped asking for a seat at your table. And built my own. They didn't follow when I walked out onto the balcony. I leaned against the railing. The wind touched my skin like a blessing. And behind me, I heard the shuffle of shame. Footsteps. Chairs sliding. The soft, disjointed sounds of people realizing they were no longer needed. Rita appeared in the doorway. You really don't want us here, do you? I turned, calm. I wanted you to see. And now you have. Her eyes glistened, not from apology, but from the sudden knowledge that this chapter would not end with forgiveness. Not today. I walked past her. Opened the front door. They gathered their things without a word. No hugs. No, let's stay in touch. As they stepped outside, I whispered, just loud enough for the wind to carry it. You missed 15 years. But don't worry. I won't miss you tomorrow. Some goodbyes come without slamming doors. Just the sound of heels on stone. Fading. They left in silence. No dramatic exit. No apologies wrapped in tears. Just 3 shadows shrinking across my white stone path. The same path they said I'd never walk alone. I closed the door softly behind them. And for a moment, I stood there. No music. No voices. Just the echo of what it meant to finally choose myself. But closure, true closure, doesn't end when the door clicks shut. It ends when the past no longer owns your name. So I lit a candle, sat at my desk, and wrote them one final note. Not to send, just to say what needed to be said. For me. To the family I once begged to see me. You taught me absence before you ever taught me love. You taught me how to endure silence, how to sit through dinners where my name was never spoken. How to smile in group photos knowing I was the only one not tagged. You didn't break me. You refined me. You chiseled away every soft part of me, and in its place I grew walls made of grace, not bitterness. And still I hoped. Every birthday, every holiday, every moment I pretended not to check my phone. I hoped. But hope without effort is cruelty. And you wielded it well. So no, I didn't build this life out of spite. I built it out of survival. Out of aching need to make something beautiful. From the silence you gave me. And I did. I am not inviting you back in. I am not angry. I am not waiting. I am simply done. I folded the page. Slid it into the fire. Watched the edges curl like paper wings. That night I stood on the balcony alone. Moonlight in my hair, sea stretching for miles. And for the first time, I felt full. Not because I won. But because I stopped losing myself for people who never noticed I was missing. Closure isn't a moment. It's the peace you feel when you no longer need one. The next morning, a single message blinked on my phone. From Rita. We talked all night. You were right. But it's probably too late now, isn't it? I didn't reply. Not because I wanted to hurt her, but because answering would have reopened a door I had just sealed. Not with rage but with peace. Forgiveness isn't always reunion. Sometimes, it's choosing not to bleed for people who never noticed your wounds. I made tea. Walked barefoot across the marble floor. Watched the sun spill through the glass like gold. I was alone. But I wasn't lonely. My phone buzzed again. This time from a distant cousin. One who hadn't spoken to me since college. Saw your photos. They said you were different now. Whatever that means, I think it looks good on you. Different. They used that word like a warning. But to me, sounded like freedom. I sat down at my desk. Opened a new journal. And on the first page I wrote, "This chapter is mine." No family guilt. No unfinished apologies. Just the stillness of knowing I'd finally left the room they kept locking me out of. Later that afternoon, a delivery van pulled up. Aunt Marla had sent a box. Inside, a faded photo of my mother and I from when I was 10, and a note that said only, "She'd be proud." I closed the box. That may be true. But what mattered most was this. I was proud of me. And no reunion, no forced lunch, no last-minute tears could ever replace what I found in solitude. My voice. My worth. My name, unshaken. I walked to the shoreline, wind in my hair, salt on my skin. And for the first time in my life I didn't look back. Because when you finally become the version of yourself they never believed you could be, you realize their belief was never the point. You were always enough.